Agro Engineering College. It's pleasure to honor our resource people, Mr. Bharat Kumar Alam sir, and other all participants for this wonderful afternoon session. So it's pleasure to honor our resource person, Mr. Bharat Kumar Alam sir from Extrans Solution, Bangalore. We welcome you, sir. So let me take the chance to have a note on his profile. Bharat Kumar Alam sir is a senior software engineer at Extrans Solution Private Limited, Bangalore. He is working in that organization for the past 2 years. Also, sir is having 10 years of teaching experience as an assistant professor from various institutes in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So, Mr. Bharat Kumar Alan sir, holding the MTech degree in Embedded Systems from Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University. So, sir is having the area of interest that includes IoT hardware platforms, artificial intelligence and machine language, and sensors, microprocessors, microcontrollers, control systems, electrical circuits, signals, and so on. So, he was a part of successful IoT lab setup in Techno India University. Also, he plays a major role in establishing IoT Center of Excellency at various engineering colleges in Bangalore. So, Mr. Alam sir has conducted so many student workshops, faculty development programs, and corporate training for IoT freshers. So, once again, we welcome you, sir, for giving us a lecture on this IoT platform and blockchain technologies. Let me hand over the call to our resource people, Bharat Kumar sir, for delivering this lecture. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Prasanna Garu. And a warm welcome to all the people for this afternoon session. So I think I hope you had your lunch. So it is be careful. You will be little attentive now. Okay. But anyhow, this particular session I'm going to take complete practical session. Like I'm going to show each and every programming part of Raspberry Pi and its sensors. Okay. So before going to that, let me share my screen. I hope I think 28 participants are there. It's a good number here. Okay. So without, I think my voice is clear. So anyone can confirm that my voice is clear?
Sir, it's audible, sir. Can you increase your volume, sir? It is audible. It is. We have the clarity on voice. Can you increase your volume on your system side?
I'm trying to do that.
It seems to be a little bit low.
It is the maximum from my side, sir.
No issue, sir. We can continue, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So if anything is there, I will try to increase my voice. If anything is there, if it is completely not audible, then let me know. So I will try to change.
Otherwise, it's audible, sir. No, it's audible. No issues.
Okay, let me try without earphones. Just let me try once again. I think a better one. Yeah. If anything is there, we'll see that one. I think I hope my voice is available.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So let me start my presentation over here. Let me share my screen here. I hope you are able to see my screen.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
It's visible.
Okay, let me hide and let me enter into. So, right. Good afternoon once again. My name is Bharat Kumar. I'm working as a senior software engineer in Extant Solutions Private Limited, Bangalore. Okay. So my main, I'm mostly working on the IoT and machine learning. So these are the two core technologies that I'm just going to be working on. Okay. So today in this particular session, in morning you might have seen the various things about the. I think some echo is coming. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So at various institutes, like, sorry, in the morning you have seen that IoT, like various definitions and all these things. So, but enter into the next topic. Let me just give a brief discussion about that. So, what are the important things that you have seen in the morning session? Like, I'm not going to give anything, just definition. I want to repeat the definitions here. So, in the majorly in the IoT, we have two concepts. One is the sensor part. Sorry, it's coming. Okay, so one is sensors part, and the second one we are going to have is a microcontroller. So whenever we are doing anything, that whatever the sensors available will read the information from the physical information from the sensors, and will integrate the sensors to the microcontroller. And from here, we'll have inside the sensor, we have inside the microcontroller, internally we may have the gateway, or otherwise you may connect some external gateway over here, so that this microcontroller through the gateway, it is connected to the cloud. So it is connected to the some part of a cloud over here. So not only this, again, this cloud will do some small analysis, or otherwise a large analysis, whatever that, depending on your amount of data, it will do some analysis over here, and whatever the analysis there, again it will be get back to the microcontroller. Okay, whatever the analysis is there, that result is get back to the microcontroller, and this microcontroller will operate the actuators. So the sensors and actuators are the first part of your IoT here. So whatever the sensors and actuators are there, those will comes under the first part of our IoT. Of course, these hardwares and all these things, tomorrow I will give a conclusion for you. What are the different sensors and what are the different actuators and all this conclusion that I will give you tomorrow. But coming to here, the main part of this IoT we are now doing here is the microcontroller. So this microcontroller may be anything. It may be a Arduino, it may be a Raspberry Pi, or it may be any other different controllers are available. So some controllers will comes with internal Wi-Fi, internal Bluetooth, and some controllers may not comes with the internal Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. But anyhow, if internal Wi-Fi is not there, we have to use external gateway. So the gateway may be your mobile phone with a hotspot, or it may be a external gateway. So you can use any of these particular things to connect your microcontroller's data to the cloud. So these are the major parts that morning you might have seen in IoT definition. So let's start directly with the controller part. So today I'm going to discuss about the Raspberry Pi 3 or 4. Of course, latest one is the Raspberry Pi 4. So let's discuss about that particular one first. Of course, at the same time, I will give the differences. What is the 3 is having and what is the 4 is having. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. This is. So what is Raspberry Pi 4 here? So before going to that, how many of you are having an idea about the controllers? Like if anyone is having any idea about the controllers, like at least any one of you have worked on the Arduino or Node MCU, any other controllers? Any one of you are worked on the other controllers? So can just give a message here so that I can see you that anyone is having any idea about the Arduino, Node MCU, or otherwise any other controllers. Because otherwise I will give a brief, complete details about the Raspberry Pi and all. Anyone have any idea about the earlier controllers? Is that Arduino or something other, any controller? So no one have idea or otherwise you don't want to give any reply. Okay, it's like but anyhow, so if you are not giving any reply means I assume that you people have not having any experience on any other controllers. So that let me go through little detail. Okay, that's fine. So let me go back to controller part. Okay, let me give 1 minute time. Let me give 1 minute. Yeah, let me quickly we'll go back. Sorry for the disturbance. So this is the Raspberry Pi 4. So Raspberry Pi 4 is a kind of PC. Like it's going to be have almost all the features like a PC, and it is going to be have a little bit a good processing power, and at the same time it is going to have a good RAM amount. So generally, whenever you are working with any microcontroller, few things we have to take care of that. Which application you are working with. If you are working with a very basic applications like just taking a small information and sending it to the cloud and a few things if you want to do, then you may not to go for the bother about the processing power. But whenever you are working with a high amount of data, we want to do a large number of these things, large amount is required to process and all these things, then definitely we have to be bother about the processing speed. So here in this Raspberry Pi 4, so this is the latest model of the Raspberry Pi 4. So you can see this here. Let me take the pen over here. Okay, so it is the latest version of the Raspberry Pi 4 with a low-cost Raspberry Pi computer. And you can, if you observe, able to see this here in the back side of your Raspberry Pi, here we have an SD card. So that this Raspberry Pi will work on the operating system. So whatever the operating system required for the Raspberry Pi 4, we'll install the operating system in this particular SD card first. Okay, we have to download the OS from the website like raspberry.org. So there is a website that we have to download, and then we have to install it into a SD card, and the SD card will be connected to the Raspberry Pi. So as soon as you power up, it will be booted up, and there we can able to write some programs and all these things. Okay, so we'll see little features about this Raspberry Pi. So Raspberry Pi is having a SoC called BCM2711. So this is the processor. Internally, we have ARM Cortex A72 processor. The people who are coming from the background of electronics, they may a little bit understand ARM Cortex. But of course, CSC people also know about the CPUs and all these things. Here, this is going to be used RISC operating system, like it is ARM Cortex A72 based processor. So its speed is 1.5 gigahertz. So imagine that if you are taking the Arduino processor speed is 16 megahertz. So it's very less compared to the Raspberry Pi. 16 megahertz. is the operating frequency of Arduino. But whereas your operating frequency of Raspberry Pi is 1.5 gigahertz, and the processor is ARM processor, ARM Cortex A72. Okay, and this is given by the company called Broadcom, the processor, the SoC for the Raspberry Pi. The SoC for the Raspberry Pi is given by the Broadcom. And also it is having some GPU, that is Video Core 6. So this is having some GPU internally, the GPU chip is available over here. So that is called the Video Core 6. Okay. And here it is mentioned only 1, 2 or 4 GB RAM, but presently the Raspberry Pi 4 is updated with the 8 GB of RAM. So there is a maximum RAM that is updated with is almost 8 GB. So nowadays, what are all the smartphones are coming with this 8 GB. So your Raspberry Pi is not nothing less than your smartphone. So that much of speed, that much of processing capability, your Raspberry Pi 4 is having. Okay. So it is also having a onboard Wi-Fi. So this is your onboard Wi-Fi chip here. This one is your onboard Wi-Fi chip. Okay. Similarly, it is having a Bluetooth 5.0, and it is having a gigabit Ethernet port. This is your Ethernet port. Okay, it's support up to gigabits of speed. So earlier Ethernet port will support up to 100 Mbps only, but now this particular uh, this particular Ethernet port will support up to 10 gigabits of speed. Okay. Internet accessing speed also increased over here. So these are all again we have two micro HDMI ports for connecting the uh, your screens. Like whenever you want to connect any screen, any monitor to the Raspberry Pi, we can make use of these two ports. Here you are able to see there are two connectors are available. These are called as a HDMI, mini HDMI connectors. So with this we can able to connect the monitor to your Raspberry Pi. And similarly, these monitors are having HDMI 2.0. Okay, and display. These are all we have some DSI display. Means if you want to connect any external um, displays instead of connecting monitor, if you want to use any LCD displays, so we can connect that LCD displays over here. This is called DSI display. This is called DSI display. So we can connect any external LCD things you want to connect. So then we can use this DSI display. And similarly, we have a camera port. Here, this is the place where we can connect the camera also. So what nothing is going to be everything is going to be connected here. What is missing here? Nothing is missing here. Everything is available over here. And also we have external USB ports also available. So this is the USB 3.0 ports, and these are the USB 2.0 ports. We can connect our keyboard, we can connect our mouse, or otherwise we can connect our external hard disk or any extra storage support. If you need any extra storage support, we can connect external hard disks, and we can connect external GPS, GSM, all these, because nowadays GPS is also available with the USB connectors. So directly, simply we can connect one USB to the Raspberry Pi, and we'll use a power bank and would like a smart program, so that we can easily track your bike or car, whatever it is. So it's a very simple tracking program. So without any much difficulty, within just half an hour or 1 hour, we can make a tracking program. So that this tracking you can just keep inside of your bike bag or inside the car. If you just place it, and if you try to read the values from the GPS, then you can easily track your vehicle. So that much of simplicity is going to be happening with this particular Raspberry Pi. And this is 5 volt 3 ampere adapter will comes with Raspberry Pi, and GPIO cable. So what is the difference between a PC and Raspberry Pi? So I'm saying that this is almost completely work like a PC. Then what is the difference between a PC and a Raspberry Pi? Why I have to buy the Raspberry Pi? Because already I have a PC, I have a laptop with me. then why I have the extra, why I need to buy the Raspberry Pi means we can able to connect some sensors over here. So to connect that particular sensors, there will be some place called as GPIO pins. So a GPIO 40 pin GPIO header. What is this GPIO means? General purpose input output pins. What is the purpose of this GPIO pins is that we can able to connect some sensors to the Raspberry Pi. Whereas if for your PC or laptop, we can't able to connect any sensors. But here, whatever the sensors that you want to connect, and if you want to develop some applications, we can easily do using the Raspberry Pi 4. So these are the different features of Raspberry Pi 4. Okay, so if anyone wants details about the Raspberry Pi 3, also we'll see that later. But one difference I will give you that Raspberry Pi 3 is having only 1 GB of RAM. So this is the one major difference. Raspberry Pi 3 is having only 1 GB of RAM. Almost here, Raspberry Pi 4 is having 8 GB of RAM. And in the Raspberry Pi 3, we have 1.2 GHz is the processing speed. 1.2 GHz is the processor speed in the Raspberry Pi 3, and whereas in the Raspberry Pi 4, 1.5 GHz is the processor speed. So other than this, remaining all features are available in the Raspberry Pi 3 also, with small changes that we have only one monitor, one HDMI monitor is available instead of two connectors. In the Pi 3, we have only one connector. And this USB 3.0, 3.0 is not available in the Raspberry Pi 3 because in the Raspberry Pi 3, which are available are USB 2.0 only. There is no 3.0 in the Raspberry Pi 3. So other than these minimum changes, Raspberry Pi 3 and Raspberry Pi 4, the process wise, whenever you are using for the IoT, the process wise there is no much difference here. Only thing is that Pi 4 can be used for your advanced applications like machine learning and image processing application. That is the only big advantage of Raspberry Pi 4 is that you can use it for the machine learning and image processing applications. So that is the one major advantage of Raspberry Pi 4. So these are the pin diagram. This is a must and should you have to know before going to the programming part. You have to know about the this pin diagram first. So here we have a 40 pins. So these pins will be represented in two modes. One is called the PCM mode. I'm very sorry, I'm not able to write properly here. One is called BCM mode. Okay, and other one is called board mode. So Raspberry Pi pin diagram can be represented in two different ways. One is called the PCM and other one is called the board mode. So what is the difference here is that in the BCM the pin numbering is little different, and in the board mode the pin numbering is different. So if you are able to see this 1, 2, 3, 4 in the circle, we are seeing the sequence numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are all called as a board numbers. These are all called as a board numbers. Whereas the left hand side and right hand side, you are able to see that GPIO 10, GPIO 9, GPIO 4, GPIO 2, 3, 4, something like that. You are going to see all the GPIO numbers. So this numbering is called as BCM mode. So if you number the pin directly with the serial number, then it is called board mode. And if you number the pin with GPIO number, then that is called BCM mode. So we'll discuss later why it is two modes are available, board mode and BCM mode. But this particular moment it is not required. So these are the minimum things that are required to work with your particular Raspberry Pi 4. Okay. So one is HDMI to mini HDMI cable, okay, and one monitor, power supply, 5 volt 3 ampere power supply, 32 GB class 10 SD card, and your keyboard and mouse. And this is some micro SD card reader. So to install your operating system like OS and all these things, to install OS and all these things, some operating system. And these are some kind of heat sinks because Raspberry Pi 4 is having a little high speed and a high RAM. So to protect your processor from processing capability, we need some heat sinks. Heat sinks means whenever your processor getting the heat, it will help for the heat sink to reduce the dissipating heat. and this is some Raspberry Pi 4 case. Inside this particular case, if you want, you can uh, put your Raspberry Pi inside this case. And if you want to connect any direct cable, direct broadband cable, internet cable to your router, you can use this Ethernet cable. And instead of this heat sinks, we can use a DC fan on the processor. So instead of heat sinks, you can directly connect a small DC fan onto the Raspberry Pi. And this is some power on off switch. So whenever you are connecting, that it will come up with the our power on and off switch. Okay. So these are the few things which are required to work with this Raspberry Pi. And how to install operating system. So first one here we have to see how to install a OS. So before that, any questions in the participants? Because continuous, because this is especially afternoon, so if I speak continuously here, definitely the people will continuously have a sleep. Participants are informed to join the lecture immediately. Okay. Mm, okay. So till now, any questions regarding the Raspberry Pi 3 or Raspberry Pi 4 specifications? So if there is no questions, then we'll go for the OS installation. And after OS installation, we'll directly go for the programming part. Anyone have any question? No questions. Okay, so let's move on to the next part, that is OS installation. How you can install an OS inside the SD card. So once, because as we discussed earlier that the Raspberry Pi will work on the operating system. So we'll see what's the operating system and where to download it and how to install that operating system into the SD card. So let's move back to that topic. Okay, so okay. So to do a operating system installation with the Raspberry Pi, we require two softwares we have to install inside your laptop. So whatever the laptop that you are working, whatever the PC that you are working, you have to install these two softwares first inside the PC, and then you can able to install the operating system into the SD card. So here, step one is first we have to download these two tools which are required here. So that is one is called SD card formatter, and the second software that we have to download is Win32 Disk Imager. Okay, so I'm already showing that by clicking on this, you'll get the link over here. Okay, so if anyone wants to work on this particular thing, you can easily work on this. You click on this, you'll get the link to download this SD card formatter. And similarly, if you click on this, you'll get that this Win32 Disk Imager software. Just download those two softwares. And the next step is here that, and next we have to download the operating system. Okay, that those are the tools. They are not operating systems. These are just tools. One, why we have to use this SD card is SD card formatter will use to format your SD card. SD card formatter is used to format your SD card, and this disk imager is used to write the OS into the SD card. One is used to write the OS into the SD card, and another one is used to format your SD card. So these are the standard and recommended softwares you can download and you can make use for the OS installation. And next we have to install the OS. Same like how you are installing the like Windows 10 OS, Linux OS, Ubuntu OS. So how we are installing, how we are downloading the Windows OS, Linux OS, and Ubuntu OS. Similarly, we have to download the Raspbian OS. So the OS which is used inside this particular Raspberry Pi is called as Raspbian OS, but now it has named as a Raspberry Pi OS. So now it is renamed. Earlier it was called as Raspbian OS, but now it is renamed as Raspberry Pi OS. You can see this screenshot. So here Raspberry Pi OS 32-bit with desktop and recommended software. Okay, so these are all you can get it from the link that if you click on this link, you will directly enter into this particular thing. Okay, and from here you can download this Raspberry Pi OS by clicking on this. It will get you will get a window like this, and you can just go for the download zip. Don't go for the download torrent. Don't go for the download torrent, but you can directly go for the download zip. You can directly download the zip file over here. Okay, right. What are the things now available? We downloaded the SD card formatter software, and we downloaded the Win32 disk imager software. These two softwares we downloaded, and also we downloaded the operating system. Raspberry Pi OS we downloaded from the websites. Next, trying to do installation. So for that particular purpose, take one SD card. So this I'm recommending that SD card should be a class 10, okay, 32-bit SD card. Especially if you want to work with the Raspberry Pi 4, it is a minimum suggestible. Of course, 16 GB is also fine, but I recommend 32 GB because whenever you are working with the Raspberry Pi 4 means definitely in the future you want to work with machine learning and image processing applications. So definitely space should be required little more. So I'm suggesting that you can use the 32 GB SD card class 10. Okay, so that you have to insert it into your SD card adapter here. Okay, and after that insert this adapter inside your laptop. Okay, insert this SD card inside your SD card slot, and then open your SD card formatter. This is what the software that earlier we downloaded. Okay, so we have to just double click on the SD card formatter and select your SD card. This is my SD card G boot. So this is my SD card name, and you can see this. I'm using a 16 GB here as an example. Okay, so 16 GB the example here. So you can observe the size. 16 GB will not have complete 16 GB. It is having 14.84 GB only, because small part of the SD card is always went for the booting purpose. Okay, so it will not directly take the complete 16 GB memory for you. Okay, so 14.84 is the memory which is available over here, and then just click on format. Just click on the format, then you just click on the S. So automatically now your SD card is going to be formatted. So once you download all the software, just you have to format the SD card. And next one is that now we have to write this OS, whatever the OS that we downloaded earlier, like Raspberry Pi OS, we downloaded from the Raspberry website. So that OS we have to write into the SD card. So for that particular purpose, you have to open your Win32 disk imager. Okay, you have to open your Win32 disk imager and select your file. By clicking on this folder symbol, you can select your file. So this is my image. You can see 2020, 20 August 2020. This is my last updated OS, but of course, there is updated OS is available in the 21 March also. So in the March also there is a updated OS is available. If any people wants to go for the latest updated OS, you can go for the still latest. Of course, this is I downloaded it just 6 months back. Okay, so you can download the latest one, which is available in the 2021. The 2021 also latest available. Sorry, download is available. You can go for that particular, and you just say yes here, and you have to wait for the 10 to 15 minutes minimum. It will take time up to 8 minutes to write your operating system into SD card. So once it is written the operating system into the SD card, you will get something called write successful, and then you have to remove your That's it. So simply you format your SD card and then you have to write OS into the SD card. So now everything is ready. Now you can directly place this SD card into your Raspberry Pi 4 and switch on your Raspberry Pi. So as soon as you switched on your Raspberry Pi for first time, so you will get something like some kind of settings. So first time whenever you are booting up or whenever you are doing first time switching on the Raspberry Pi, you will get some setting up things. So you have to do a small settings over here. Just click on the next. Okay. Next you have to set the which country you are belongs to and what the language and what the time zone. So here we have to take India as a country and language is English. Again, time zone is Kolkata. So that is the nearest time zone for us. So we can select the Kolkata um, for we will take that Kolkata as a time zone over here. Of course, if you want, you can select other time zones within India also, but we'll take the Kolkata as a reference. Okay. So time zone we'll take the Kolkata. Language we have to take English, Indian English, like that is already available default. English is the default. So we can't select Hindi or Telugu. So definitely we have to take this as a language as a English, and this is the country is India. And then we have to, if you want to change the password of your Raspberry Pi, because every Raspberry Pi will have some default username and password. Default username is Pi, okay, and default password is Raspberry. So if you want to change the default password to some other password, if you want to secure your Raspberry Pi, you can change your password over here. Okay. After that, you have to connect to the Wi-Fi over here. You have to connect to your Wi-Fi over here, and you have to enter your Wi-Fi password. You have to enter your Wi-Fi password and click on next. So once you are connected to the Wi-Fi, you will get a symbol like this. Wi-Fi symbol. You are connected to the Wi-Fi. This is telling you that you are given the your username and password of Wi-Fi is correct, so that it is connected clearly and it will show a Wi-Fi symbol over here. Okay. Similarly, once it is finished, we have to reboot the system. So all the basic settings are there, like language selection, country selection, and these all the basic settings are finished. Then we have to reboot the system to take all these settings effect. And also, if anyone wants to work with any sensors, we have to enable few things over here. This is called as Raspberry Pi configuration. So we can go for we have a menu symbol over here. Like if you're able to see in the left hand side corner, on the top left hand side corner, we are having a Raspberry Pi symbol here. So this is called menu symbol. So inside the menu, you can go for the preferences, and inside the preferences, you can go for the Raspberry Pi configuration. So inside the Raspberry Pi configuration, we have to enable all the things like camera, SSH, VLC, SPI, I2C, serial port. So we'll see what are all these things tomorrow in the tomorrow session. We have a theory part is there available, like what are all these things that we are working with. What is I2C, what is SPI, what is VNC, and what is CAB, like SSH and all these things. So in tomorrow theory part, I will clearly discuss about all these things, but currently you have to enable all these things whenever you are working for the Raspberry. Once all the settings are done, you have to just click on the yes. The people who are working for the first time, these slides will be very useful. So definitely you can follow these particular slides blindly so that you can work very nicely with the Raspberry Pi. Now all the settings are done. Of course, this is not required for you. It is the people who bought the OS inside the operating system, like already available. OS is already available inside the SD card, because in the market, whenever you buy the Raspberry Pi kit along with all the other accessories, then definitely you will get some preloaded OS. In the SD card, already those people will give the OS for you. No need to install the OS externally for you. So they will give the OS already pre-installed. But for that also you have to do small changes, like what is your language, what is your country, and what is the Wi-Fi country, and these are all things that you have to do some settings. So without doing these settings, again you are not able to work with your Raspberry. So these are the few things required over here. That's it. So now let's go into the programming part. Now let's write into the first program. Let's enter into the first program. Okay. So these are the things that is required, some basic things which are required whenever you are starting working with a Raspberry Pi 3. It's not directly you are buy a Raspberry Pi and switch on and work like that. You have to do small settings over here. So I said you all the steps like how to install the Raspberry Pi OS, and after installation also how to take that installation path over here, and how to insert that SD card into the Raspberry Pi and switch on the Raspberry Pi. So after switching on the Raspberry Pi, you have to do small settings. So we have seen all the settings also step by step what are the settings required over here. So once all these are completed, once all the settings are finished, now we can go for the programming part. So for that, I'm just writing programming, click on the programming, and I'm going for Genie editor. Of course, you can go for so many other editors. Python 2 editor is there here. Python 2 editor, Python 3 editor, Tawny editor. There is something called Tawny editor. There is something called IPython 3 editor. So these are all Python editors only. This one, this one, this one, and this one. But I preferred Genie because it is little bit comfort for me. So the people who wants, if you don't want to work with the Genie, you can go for any other IDE over here. Like IPython 3 is also one IDE. Python 2, IDLE. IDLE is the basic Python IDE, and the Tawny IDE. This is a little bit lightweight IDE. So you can, because Genie is a little heavy IDE, whereas Tawny is a little bit lightweight IDE. So if you want, you can make use of any of these 5 IDEs. One is Tawny, one is Python 2, Python 3, one is IPython 3, and one is Genie. So here I'm working with the Genie. So but before working with the Genie, don't forget to set your commands is working for the Python 3 or Python 2. That means in the Python language, you can use Python 2 language or otherwise Python 3 language. There are two different series of languages available in the Python. So if anyone wants to work on the latest Python, definitely they have to change the settings to the Python 3. Otherwise, you will get some errors while executing the programs. Okay? So you have to be very careful about the Python 2 syntax and Python 3 syntax. Okay? So these are the few things we need to change before entering into the programming part. So now, if we take a 2 minutes, take any questions from the audience side, participant side. Otherwise, I will follow the programming part immediately. Till now, any questions regarding any basic introduction of the Raspberry Pi or connection part or any other part? First of all, I'm getting a doubt. Is my voice is audible? Anyone can answer that if my voice is audible? Hello? The participants are there. Oh, I think you don't have any option for unmute it. At least you have an option to message. And please give an answer in the chat box. Whether my voice is audible? Because I'm getting doubt like no one is responding here. No one wants to answer. buy it in any electronic store, like depending on your location. So here I'm in Bangalore, so I can buy it from the Bangalore any particular electronic stores. Like it is specially available for. It should be a special place. Like in a normal electronic shop, it will not be available. Otherwise, if you want, you can buy it online also. Like online also, you can buy it for the Raspberry Pi 4. And the cost of the Raspberry Pi 3, the people who are working for the first time, they can buy the Raspberry Pi 3. The cost of the Raspberry Pi 3 is it's almost 3,000 rupees. And whereas Raspberry Pi 4, it is having a cost of 5,000 rupees. Raspberry Pi 4 is 5,000 rupees. If my voice is audible, at least we can answer that. Because after a long time I got question here. Anyone can answer in the message box whether my voice is audible or not. Otherwise, it's a waste of going like this. Yes, okay, that's fine. Okay, so, thank you. At least I got one answer. Okay, so anyhow, let me move on to the next part. Here is that I want to work with the sensors. Okay, so now we have seen that how to install the OS inside that, and how to install the OS. What are the things to be set in the Raspberry Pi? These are the things that we have finished over here. So now let me move back to the sensor part. So here, so the first sensor that I'm going to connect over here is that DHT11. So first we'll see what is DHT11, and then we'll write a program for this, and then we'll move back to the next sensor. So like that, we'll go by sensor. We'll try first. We'll see the explanation about the sensor, and then we'll go for the Raspberry Pi, and we'll write some program over there, and we'll try to connect the sensor to the Raspberry Pi. Okay. So first, here is that DHT11 is a environment sensor. Like it can be able to read about the digital humidity and temperature. So DHT means humidity and temperature, so which is a digital in the form of digital. We are going to read the output in the form of a digital data. Okay, so digital humidity and temperature. So this is called digital humidity and temperature. And here VCC and the data and ground. There are three pins available for this particular sensor. So if you observe any sensor, there are two things are always available, like one is VCC and another one is ground. Only the remaining part will be changed for the sensor to sensor. So here, for this particular sensor, we have three pins. One is called VCC and one is called ground. So VCC is almost always trying to connect to the two different voltages. Like some sensors will work on the 5 volts, and some sensors will work on the 3.3 volts. So you have to be very careful while you are buying the sensors. You have to be very careful that you have to read the data sheet of the sensor. So while you are buying the sensor, data sheet will be available. If the data sheet is also not available, so while you are buying, so please read the data sheet in the internet. Okay. So if you type the what is the name of the sensor over there, and they will give the data sheet along with the in the Google. You can search for the data sheet and you can read the data sheet. What is the maximum voltage that can be connected to the sensor? So here DHT11 can be connected to two different voltages. It can be work with the 5 volts, and also it will be work with the 3.3 volts. So here there is not a problem that it can able to work with the both the voltages. So you may ask one question here, what is 3.3 and what is 5 volts means. If you are from the background of electronics, you can understand these things. But if you are not from the background of electronics, these are the minimum voltages that we are provided for the any sensor to work out. So there are some other voltages like 12 volts whenever you are working with a stepper motor or any other heavy motors or otherwise any heavy electrical like DC motors and all these things, they will take a 12 volts, 24 volts, 36 volts, so something like that. They will take some higher voltages. But here, most of the sensors will work with the 5 volts and 3.3 volts. There are some advanced sensors are available in the nowadays that it will work on the 1.8 volts. So before working on any sensor, first of all you have to find out that what is the voltage of that particular sensor. So without finding out the voltage, if you try to work out, the sensor will be just damaged. Okay. So these are the few things that we have to install over here. So let me, I will show you that directly in the installation part. Okay. So this is the program that we have to write to uh, connect the sensor. So if you observe that here, these are the three pins of the sensor here, and I connected this to the GPIO pins of your Raspberry Pi. You clearly see this one that here plus the positive one is connected to pin number 1. So in my Raspberry Pi, pin number 1 is 3.3. So how to know that it is a 3.3 means you have to verify the pin diagram of Raspberry Pi. So there it will be, everything will be mentioned very clearly that our positive pin of the sensor is connected to 3.3 and this negative pin, the last pin is connected to the ground, and this yellow pin, we can call it as data pin. This data pin is connected to the pin number 7. So like that, we have three different pins connected on the three different parts of your Raspberry Pi. Okay. So the people who bought this Raspberry Pi, they can easily connect like this. And now let us see how to write a program on this. So let me connect to the Raspberry Pi over here. So this is my Raspberry Pi over here. So let me close. I will connect once again. Skip. So to connect my Raspberry Pi, actually I have to show my Raspberry Pi screen over here, but that is not possible right now. So because of that, I will connect my Raspberry Pi remotely. So to connect my Raspberry Pi remotely, I am using some software called VNC Viewer. I'm using some software called VNC Viewer, and using this VNC Viewer, I'm connecting to my Raspberry Pi remotely. So here my Raspberry Pi, I'm connecting to 135. This is my IP address of Raspberry Pi. I'm trying to connect to Raspberry Pi over here. This is Pi. That's it. Okay, so I have connected over here, and I will show I'm not using the individual Raspberry Pi. We have developed a board. I will show that external board in the last. Okay, but what is the board that I'm using and all these things. But before going to that, let me write one program and then I will show the board. Okay, I will show the board for you in the later. But first, finish one program. At least one program I want to finish. So as I said that this is my menu symbol. And to write a program, I have to go for the programming and Genie. I said you earlier that I will use the Genie IDE, which is very comfort for me. So I'm going to use the Genie IDE. So earlier itself I said you that file new. I want to write a new program. So just go for the file new. Okay. Earlier I said that DHT11 is a temperature and humidity. It will measure the temperature and humidity. So to work with that, we need to install one library over here. So to install that library, what we have to do here is that we have to minimize this. Okay. Sorry. Let me close this. And here we have something called terminal window, same like your command prompt in the Windows. Just click on this terminal window. Here you have to type one command called sudo pip3 install adafruit underscore dht. underscore DHT. So this is the command to install the library inside the Raspberry Pi. Especially this library is only for the TST11 sensor. If you use any other sensors, you have to, depending on your sensor, you have to install uh, different commands you have to install. You can ask one question here that, sir, how to know all these commands and all these things. So it will take some time to adapt to all these things because not like directly that we are going to know about it within a period of time. So we need some practice to know about all these things. So first, let me follow as it is right now, and after that, whenever the people wants to uh, see and log in and all these things, we'll see tomorrow. We might have give a chance to log in for you, depending on the situation, depending on the time and the situation. We'll give a chance to log in for one or two people, and then can write a program over there. Okay, so let me install this library. Low PIP3. So it's already satisfied. Requirement is already satisfied. Why? Because this is I'm using from the long time, so it's already installed. So for you, if you are working for the first time, definitely to install this particular library inside your library file. Finished. Now I have finished the installing the these particular things. Now let me go back to the my Genie editor. Okay, and let me open a new program over here, and let me import that library. Import Adafruit underscore DHT as DHT. Now, whatever the library that we install over there, we are trying to install that library over here. So that is what we are trying to do. Whatever the library installed over there, we are trying to access that library over here. So that is import Adafruit underscore DHT as DHT. So what is this as DHT means? We are giving some alias name to the entire name. So every time we are, instead of using this library completely name, to use the complete name of the library, so we can use a short form of the name that is called DHT. So whenever you want to access this, I think the people who have the programming knowledge, these are the packages. So instead of using always this package name inside the methods, so we can directly call some alias name called DHT. Okay. So similarly, we have to import one more library called time. So this is the library which is used to read the information from the sorry it is used to generate the delay. So directly if you want I can write some comment over here. So this is what this is used to generate delay. Generate delay. So why we have to generate the delay means while we are reading the information from the sensor, so every time we have to give some delay. So like 2 seconds, 1 second gap. That gap we have to use between the one reading to another reading. So to generate that delay or otherwise to generate that gap between the sensor reading again and again, for that purpose we use the time library. So here this is the DHT11 sensor library. Okay, this is the sensor library. Okay, so let me first save this program and then we'll continue. So DHT example, DHT example. So always don't forget to write this .py for every program. So we have because all the Python programs will be started with the .py extension. So let's write the .py over here and then try to read the values. So before going to read these values, this sensor is going to have a, let us write one thing called while true. What is this while true here is that it is a infinite loop. I want to read the data from the sensor infinitely. I want to read the data from the sensor infinitely. Infinitely means I want to read the data again and again without any disturbance. I want to read the data again and again. So whenever you want to read the data again and again, then we have to use the while true. This is called infinite loop. Okay. Now let's read the values of humidity, comma temperature. Let me give the values of humidity, comma temperature. So let's write that dst dot read underscore filter. So this is the library that we have to use for reading the value from the sensor. But where you have connected, I don't mention any connector name or any connector, any pin name, pin number, nothing is mentioned here. But we have to mention because sensor means somewhere we have to connect. So here we have to mention that what is the type of sensor. What do you mean by this type of sensor is that the DHT sensor, there are three different types available: DHT11, DHT22, DHT21. So there are three different types of DHT sensors are available. So what I am using here is the DHT11, and what is the pin number that I am using is number 4. I am using the pin number 4. So this is my sensor DHT11, and this sensor is connected to the pin number 4. So earlier we have seen that the data pin is connected to the pin number 7, or there otherwise that is called GPIO number 4. I said you that there are two kinds of things are there: physical number, board mode, or otherwise BCM number, that is called GPIO number. So here I'm connected to the GPIO number 4. Okay. So I'm reading the values, two values. So let's print these values onto the console. So let us enter this and print the values on the console. One is temperature. I want to read the temperature equal to, okay, temperature equal to and plus STR of temp. What do you mean by this? Just I'm concatenating the temperature value over here, and similarly I'm writing the humidity value also. I want to read the humidity value. Humidity equal to I'm concatenating the value of humidity like STR of humidity. Why I'm writing this STR? This humidity is a float value. Humidity and temperature, these both are float values here. This humidity and temperature, what we are reading here is the float values, and I convert that float into the string. Why? Because to concat that temperature value with this particular thing, we have to convert that into string. So this is one type of format. There are lots of formats available in the Python. So this is one type of format. I'm converting this temperature into string, and I'm concatenating. This plus is a concatenate symbol. I'm concatenating this string with this value. Okay. Now I want to generate a delay between the reading and reading. Why? Because here we written while true. That means it will read the values infinite number of times. But between one read to another read, I want some gap between the one read to another read. So that is called time dot sleep 2 seconds. So I want to give a 2 seconds gap over here. Then within that 2 seconds, we can able to read the value. So let's quickly save this. Okay. And let me connect the sensor over here. I will show you how to connect and all these things. I'll show you later. Uh, Let me give 1 minute time over here. Okay, so here is sorry for the disturbance. Let me I'm sorry, I'm just trying to connect to this particular camera. Okay, so I think now you are able to see the board over here. So this is the board actually designed by the Extrans Solutions Private Limited. Okay, so here this is my Raspberry Pi 4. This is what I'm using. This is my Raspberry Pi 4. I connected to the monitor over here. Okay, so this is my Raspberry Pi 4, and this is my sensor DST11. You are able to see this. I think you are able to see clearly that it is DST11 sensor. So this is what type of the sensor is DST11, and I'm connecting this to the through this wire. So internally it is connected to the pin number 4. So this is my GPIO pins, 40 pins actually. This is my GPIO pins, 40 pins, and I'm connecting to the DST11 sensor over here through this wire. Of course, if you want to use the individual or Raspberry Pi 4 only, then you can use individual jumper wires and you can connect the sensor directly. But of course, this is my Extrans Solutions Private Limited has developed this board and for working especially on the IoT. These are all the sensors left hand side. This is the controller, and these are all the buzzer, relay, and some kind of actuators. So morning we discussed sensor and actuators, and controller is there. So internally this controller is having Wi-Fi, so it will be connected to the gateway. So through that we can send the values to the cloud also. Of course, the all cloud part we'll see tomorrow. But now you can just imagine that I connected my DST11 sensor over here to the Raspberry Pi 4. This is my Raspberry Pi 4. I connected. So let me execute the program. Let me execute the program over here. Let me go back to Raspberry Pi and let me execute the program. Oh, sorry, spelling mistake. Adafruit underscore DST. I think here A is missing. Okay, now it is fine. There is spelling mistake over there. So let's close this previous window. And then if any other windows are there, let's close this. Okay, now let's run this again. Just click on this, automatically it will open this. Yeah, your temperature is 25 degrees and the humidity is 92%. It's a closed room, that's why I have a little bit high humidity here. It's a closed room. Okay. So that's why I'm getting the temperature is 25 degrees and humidity is 91%. Humidity is in percentage and the temperature in degrees centigrade. Okay. Temperature is 25 degrees and humidity is 90 or 91%. Humidity will vary here and there because of that air, whatever we are speaking or whatever breathing and all these things also will change the humidity. Okay. So this is what a simple introduction of the sensor to the Raspberry Pi here. So here we'll try to take a 5 minutes break over here, and after that, if you have any questions over here, we'll take the questions and within just 3 to 4 minutes or 5 minutes, maximum 5 minutes break, and we'll come back and we'll see how to interact with the remaining other sensors. So we'll almost I'm going to give 4 more sensors. I will try to contact the 4 more sensors and I will show all the sensors for you and I will try to connect that with the Raspberry Pi and we'll see how to write a small programs. Okay. So is there any questions from so let's go for the next sensor. Here is that. So this is the earlier I told you that this is the command to install the OS, and we can open the GD editor like this and we can write the program over here, and we have seen that what is the output of that. Okay. So the next one here is that connecting the LDR module. So what is LDR module here? Okay. So LDR is nothing but it's a light dependent resistor. So it simply gives you that how the intensity of the light here is that. Here, so here we are simply connecting one. This is your LDR part. So whenever any light falls on it, whenever any light falls on it, it will give a logic 0. And whenever a light is not falling on it, it will give a logic 1. Okay. Whenever light falls on it, it will give a logic 0. And whenever light is not falling on that, that means simply saying that whenever it is in a daylight, it will give 0. And whenever it's night time, it will give a logic 1. That means we'll simply detect what is the intensity of the light. So whether light is present at a particular place or a light is absent at a particular place. You may ask that there is application. What is the applications of this? So sometimes what happens here, few things are going to be stored at the without some like without light. So without light, there are some few things always stored without any light. So in that particular place, in any situation, if the light is falling onto that particular material, that material may get damaged. So in that particular place, we'll install one sensor there, and we'll make sure that whenever the light is falling onto the material, immediately we can take some action. So that means we can just read the light data over there. So whether material is completely closed or not, completely available in the dark room or not. Okay. So that particular thing is always available in the dark room, so it is fine. So whenever it is some lighting, unfortunately something had happened, some light is falling onto that, then it will give a alert for us. So something like that, it will simply find out whether light is falling on the material or not. Okay, this is one application. And there is one more application like street lights. So you might have seen that street lights are going to be switched on every time. Okay. But what generally the street lights should be off in the daytime, and it should be automatically on in the night time. Okay. So here in that particular place, whether it is daytime or night time, so without going to there, it will be simply recognized by the sensor. Will simply attach one small sensor to the street light, so that automatically when the daylight, whenever the daytime is finished, automatically that particular street light will get switched on. So it automatically street light will get switched on whenever it is getting dark, and automatically whenever it is in the morning, whenever that street light is getting the daylight, automatically the street light gets off. So like that, we are controlling the street light based on the lighting condition. So for that also we use this particular sensor. Okay, this is a very simple sensor, and it is having again the same three pins. One is called VCC, and one is called ground, and one is called data pin. Same like earlier sensor, it is also having three pins: VCC, ground, and data. So here you can see that red wire is VCC connected to the pin number 2. Pin number 2 is a 5 volts pin. So last time we have seen that pin number 1, that is a 3.3 volts, and pin number 2 is a 5 volts. So this sensor will work with the 5 volts. And this black wire is ground, and the ground is connected to pin number 6. And the last one is a data pin, yellow wire is a data pin, and data pin is connected to pin number 30. Pin number 30. Okay. So here, this is a simple LDR sensor, how we can connect it to the Raspberry. Okay. So let's move on to the Raspberry Pi, and let's write some program, small program over here, and let's verify whether this will work or not. So let's take this, let's keep it here and move on to the Raspberry Pi. So this is my Raspberry Pi connected through the VNC. So this is my Raspberry Pi over here. So let's try open a new window. So here, if you observe that earlier DHT11 sensor, that sensor is having a library installed, but here this sensor will work with the default GPIO pins. So earlier we have seen that what is this GPIO pins? What are the 40 pins that are available over here? These are the called GPIO pins. What are the 40 pins available over here? So these are called GPIO pins. So GPIO number, pin number 33 will directly work with the GPIO number. There is no external library to be installed over here. All are available within the Python itself. So for that we have to import the library called import. 1 minute. Just let me do that. Now 1 minute. I'm sorry. We'll get back here. So let me write the program directly here. So here we have to write import RPI dot GPI. So you may ask that what is this RPI dot GPI? So here RPI dot GPI is a library which is going to be managed this GPIO pins of your Raspberry Pi. So let's give some short name GPIO. So, okay, so before going to it, let's save this program as LDR example. Okay, LDR example.py. Okay, I will save it on the desktop. Okay. So now, same. If you want to read the sensor data again and again, we have to do some delay. So for that, we have to write import time. So that what happens here, we will be able to give some delay over here. That is for that particular purpose, we will take the import time. Okay, and after that, try to read the pin number. So what is my pin number here is that LDR is connected to pin number 30. So earlier we have seen that here earlier here we have seen that we are connected to pin number 30. So if you observe that PPT over here, so this is connected to pin number 33. So this pin number 33 we have to mention in the pin number 33 we have to mention in the library. So let's go back to this program here and pin number 33 we mentioned over here. Why? Because our data pin of this LDR is connected to pin number 33. And similarly, last time I said that GP, that Raspberry Pi is having two different modes. One is called board mode, one is called board mode, and another one is called BCM mode. So here we have to set that mode. Why? Because we are using the direct pin number 33. This is a physical pin number. So earlier I said that it is a physical pin number. So physical pin number. So it is going to be represented as board mode. Physical pin number means it's represented as board mode. So we have to set the board mode over here. So we are setting it. Okay. Similarly, we have to tell that we have to tell the system that what is the direction of the pin. Here, what is the direction means here GPIO dot in or out. Okay. Which pin here it is LDR pin is setting as the input pin. So what it is set up here is that we are setting the input pin. We are setting this 33 pin number as the input pin. Why? Because it's the sensor. So always remember that whenever we are connecting with any sensor, the sensor pin should be made it as an input pin. So then only we can able to read something from it. And if you are connecting a LED, or if you are connecting a relay, so these are called actuators. So whenever you are connecting the LDR should be input and the actuator should be output. So here LDR is a sensor, so we have to make that pin as an input pin. Okay, right. And next, I want to read the data continuously. So for that, I will write while. I want to read the data continuously. So from the particular sensor, I want to read the data continuously. So for that particular purpose, writing while loop, while true, which is nothing but a continuous and infinite loop. So with this particular loop, you can read the data without uh, disturbance. Like continuously, we are able to read the data. So let's read the value. So LDR value, otherwise LDR status. What is the status of the environment? Whether the environment is dark or whether environment is bright. Bright means light is there or light is absent or light is present. So we have to read the status. So how to read that status is that we have to write GPIO dot input. So this is the function to read the, from where we are reading, from the pin number 33, that is LDR pin. We are reading from the pin number 33. So what is that pin number 33? LDR pin. So we are reading from the LDR pin and the status. So as you know that, what is that? So LDR status will be always, if it is 0, it is bright outside. Okay, and if it is 1, it is a dark outside. Okay, so the status is always given as a 0 if it is a bright outside, and the status is given as a 1 if it is a dark outside. So means outside light is absent, light is not there means it will give a logic 1, and if outside light is present means it will give a logic 2. So now let us write some small if condition to handle that. To handle that, I don't know how many of you are having the programming knowledge. So if people have some programming knowledge, it is very easy to understand. But if you don't have the programming knowledge, it is just the first time. It will be a little bit difficult, but try to understand. Okay. So LDR underscore status equal to 1. Then what happens here? We have to print that dark outside. Means outside is there is no light. So no, you can simply print that there is no light. Else, we have to simply print that bright outside. Bright outside means light is present. Light is present. Otherwise, we can write bright outside. That's it. So I'm reading the status of that, and I'm printing a statement called if it is dark outside or bright outside. A very simple program that I'm writing here. Whether outside it is a dark or bright. So let's take some simple example. Simple delay time dot sleep of 2 seconds. For every 3 seconds, it will read the value whether the room is dark or bright. For every 3 seconds, it will read the value, and it will give a out. Okay. So let's save the program, and let me connect the sensor over here. Let me connect the sensor over here. Okay. So let me save the program. Let me open the camera so that I will show you that how I connected the sensor over here. Okay. So let me open my camera. Okay. So you are able to see that this is my LDR sensor. This is my LDR sensor that I have connected. Sorry. So this is my LDR sensor. I connected here through wire. This is another wire. Earlier we have connected here. Now we are connecting here. So this is my LDR sensor. I'm connecting here, and internally it is connected to the pin number 33 of the Raspberry Pi. People who wants to work with the Raspberry Pi directly, you can use the jumper wires. Okay. So it will be something like this. Okay. Yeah, you want to use the individual sensor. So this is my individual sensor. So whenever you want to connect my individual sensor to the Raspberry Pi, I have to use the jumper wires like this. Okay. can see this. I can use the jumper wires like this, and I remove this. I will get on the pins over here. So here I can connect the sensor. Okay, it's clear. So now, because here already I have available with the PCB, so that's why I connected directly LDR sensor to the second connector. Here internally connected the pin number 30. Okay, so let's start execute the program. Let's execute the program over here. So let me move back to that. Okay, so let's execute. So here presently it is called right outside. So currently light is there. I think my uh, that is window is open and all these things are. So it is saying that currently right outside. So if I close my sensor over here, mm, yeah, now you can see that it's dark outside. Okay, now you can see the output as dark outside. Why? Because I'm closing the sensor over here with my hand. Okay. So completely now it is giving the output as dark outside. Okay. And if now I'm removing my hand, so automatically the next output is here right outside. So like that, this particular sensor will always detect the environment light. So if the light is available, it will give bright outside. If the light is not available, it will give dark outside. Of course, instead of this print statement, you can do any action. So like here, street light is off and street light is on. Okay. So depending on the situation, we can control the things over here. Okay, let me close this. So here, instead of writing all these things, we can write GPIO dot output street light on, GPIO dot output street light off. So something like that. Depending on the situation, we can control over here. So we can control the street light over here. So that the street light is connected to some relay, so that the relay is going to be controlled over here. So this is the way how simply we can do the small program. Okay. So let's go to the next program here. So before going to that, is there any basic doubts? Otherwise, we'll finish with the next program here. Like, okay. So is there any doubts from the participant side? Otherwise, we'll finish the next program. No. So no more questions, then we'll finish the next sensor here. So because next sensor will take some time because it is a little bit more program is there. So it is a high program. Number of lines are more. So if you don't have any other doubts, then I will continue with that particular sensor. And see this today we are going to see about all the basic sensors over here. And after that tomorrow we will able to see what are the sensor that we are reading now. Tomorrow we'll try to send all these values to the cloud over here. Because with this particular thing, we can finish the complete cycle of the IoT. So that is, we are reading the sensors right now, and sensors are connected to the microcontroller. So now we are doing only two parts are covering. One is sensors, and second one is microcontroller. So tomorrow we have to see how it is connected to the Wi-Fi and how these values, what are the values that we are reading, how we are able to send to the cloud. And similarly, we can see that how we can get the values back from the cloud to the this particular actuated part. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to see tomorrow. But before that, now if you don't have any other questions, we'll go for the next sensor. Okay, so So let me minimize this and let me open the next sensor over here. So what is my next sensor here is that this is called ultrasonic sensor. So we can also call it as a object detection sensor. You can also call it this as a object detection sensor. So why this sensor is used for to detect the distance of any object from the sensor. So for example here, this is the sensor. So if any object comes nearby this particular sensor, it will detect the distance of that particular sensor. So this is my sensor over here. So if I place any object in front of this particular sensor, otherwise if any object comes in front of the particular sensor, it will detect that at what distance the object is present. It is measured in the centimeters. Okay, what the range of this sensor is that it can measure from the 2 centimeters to 400 centimeters. So 400 centimeters means it's 4 meters. And after that, the uh, object of the distance it can be able to measure is that 400 centimeters. So 400 centimeters means it can able to detect up to 4 meters. So if any object is present in a distance of 4 meters, within the distance of 4 meters, it can able to measure the distance. If it is more than that, we have to use some other radar kind of application like radar sensors. So because in the ultrasonic sensor also there are different types of sensors are available. So very minute distances, like generally it is used in the machineries. So whenever you are doing the automation of any machinery, so one, for example, making of thumbs up making or Pepsi making, Pepsi. So whenever the bottles are comes in front of the machine, how the machine will recognize that there is some bottle comes nearby the machine. So it will be measure with the distance. If it is not in the exact place, then machine will not take that and will not take any action. So whenever it comes exactly to the correct place, so how it will measure that? It will measure with a small ultrasonic sensors so that it will measure the distance. So like that, and also this is going to be used for smart dustbins. So whenever you can place your sensor on the top of your dustbin, so that whenever this dustbin is getting full, so depending on the distance from the sensor to the duster, it will recognize that dust is full or dust is not full. So something like that, it will measure the distance and it will able to recognize that whether the dustbin is full or not. So like that, it will use in that particular purpose. And the third one is that it can object detect, like the door open and door close. So whenever anyone who comes in front of your door, so the door is attached with some uh, ultrasonic sensor. So that what happens here, any person comes in front of your door, it will simply detect that okay, one person is available in front of the door, so that it will open it will unlock the door automatically. Like of course, there are some other sensors we can use whether it is how is authenticated or not, and the camera will open automatically whenever any person comes in front of the door. Camera will switch on automatically. Camera is not switched on 24 hours. So whenever any person comes in front of the door, then only camera will be switched on and it will take a photograph of the particular person. And in that it will give some alarm like the person is a known person or unknown person. So that is all again deep applications. But these ultrasonic sensors are generally used. For example, in the shopping malls, you are able to see that. So whenever any person comes nearby the door, so automatically the glass doors will be open, and whenever there is no person available over there, that the glass doors will be closed. So how it will be just depending on the object. It may not be human being or it may be any other object. So whenever object comes nearby the door, it will be open automatically, and whenever it is not near, it will be closed automatically. So like that, for that particular kind of application, we use this ultrasonic. So let's write the program. Okay. And again, the pins. I forgot that there are 4 pins are available. So always I said VCC and ground. These are the 2 pins are very common for any sensor. Right now we have seen 2 sensors, VCC and ground. These two are common for any sensor. And here we have two pins. One is trigger and one is echo. So how it will work, that trigger pin will send the signal out, and whereas the echo pin will receive the signal out. How it will work? Actually, this sensor will generate the sound pulse. Okay, the sound pulse will travel in the air and it will hit by the object, and it will come back and received by the echo pin. So trigger pin will send the sound pulse. If any object is there, it will hit by the object, will come back and receive by the echo pin. It means trigger is a output pin because it is sending the pulse out, whereas echo is a input pin because it is receiving the pulse inside. So here we have to make the trigger as a output pin, and we have to make the echo as a input pin. Okay, so these are the things required over here. Required information about the distance sensor. So let's move back to the program here. Let's get back to the program here. So let's quickly write a new program over here. So as same like earlier program, we required RPI.GPIO. So for working with GPIO pins, because I said that this echo and the trigger, these are the two GPIO pins which are available over here to work as the input and the output pins. I think you know about that. Trigger is the output pin and the echo is the input pin. So to handle those input and output pins, we require this library called import RPI.GPIO. So let's save this program first. Okay. Distance calculation. So distance in centimeters. The distance in centimeters dot pi. Which distance it is? Object distance. Object distance in centimeters dot pi. Okay, so this is my program name that I have named like that. So let us save it on the desktop. Okay. So let's also write import time. So every time I want to read information, I want to give some delay. And what are my pins? Here, trigger pin. I'm connected to pin number 35. Echo pin. I'm connected to pin number 37. So please observe that these pins are not fixed. Okay, okay. For my particular kit, these pins are fixed. But whenever you are working with your own sensor, you can connect to any other GPIO pins. Okay, in my case, I'm using this pin number 35 and 37. Whenever you are working with your own sensor, you can use any other pins over here. Okay, so let's take two pins here, and let's decide that GPIO dot set mode, which mode we are working with. GPIO dot board. I said that there are two modes, GPIO board mode and BCL mode. I'm setting it out as a this one. And what is the direction of trigger? I want to make the trigger as a output pin, and make the trigger as the output pin, and I want to make the echo as input. Echo as input. So for input pin we have to write GPIO dot in, and for output pin we have to write GPIO dot out. Okay. So trigger is always output pin and echo is always input pin. So we make things like that, and then we will simply write while true. So I want to continue the things. So before going to that, how to generate the pulse? Okay, so but for that particular thing, what happened here? We have to make a trigger pin. We have to make the trigger pin false for some time, and then so let us take that one. GKO dot output. What do you want to make trigger pin as false? Because just I want to reset the sensor. So to reset the sensor, we have to do all these things. Like we have to make the trigger pin as false. So you can simply say that reset the sensor. Okay, and I want to give some time like time dot sleep for zero point 0.2 seconds, not much more, like 0.2 seconds. And I can say that otherwise we can give 1 second because we will give some time to settle the sensor. So we have to make the sensor to be ready. So how to make the sensor be ready means we are writing that here it is print. We'll do one thing, print we have to write in the second statement so that after that we'll do some delay. Okay. So what will you write here it is print sensor is getting ready. Sensor is getting ready for measurement. Because we have, every time we have to give some time for the sensor to measure the distance. So for that we have to just write simple statement like sensor is ready for measurement. Okay. And after that we have to generate the pulse. So next step is that we have to generate the pulse. How to generate this pulse here? Generate the pulse. How to generate this pulse here is that we have to simply write like GPIO dot output, okay, trigger. We have to make the trigger pin true. Okay. And after that we have to give a gap of 10 microsecond. Who has given this value is this value is given by the manufacturer. So we have to give a gap of 10 microseconds. So this is the value of 10 microseconds in the seconds. We have to write 10 microseconds in the form of seconds so that we can write it as 0.00001, 4 zeros, 1. Okay. After that we have to make a GPIO dot output trigger pulse. So what do you mean by this here it is? We are making the trigger pin true comma false. That is on and off. We are making the trigger on and off for 10 seconds. So which will generate the pulse. Means we have to write these 3 lines of code to generate the pulse. So this is the generating pulse. Okay. So once pulse is generated, then what we have to do here is that we have to calculate the times. So how to calculate the time? We have to calculate the start time. Okay, start time that is called GPIO dot input. You have to measure the input of echo. Okay. Okay. So how to calculate that is that here we have to write a while loop. We have to wait until that the GPIO dot input from the echo means we are receiving the value to the echo pin. So that should be equal to 0. That means it is a start time. So time, start time. So instead of the strt start time equal to time dot time. What do you mean by this? 0 here is that until now that particular signal is not received, like the pulse is not received. So that is your start time. So how to calculate the end time? So when the pulse is received, then what we can write here while same sentence we are writing by GPIO dot input of echo, okay, equal to 1. So what do you mean by this equal to 1 here is that pulse is received over here. So whenever the pulse is received, that is our end time. So we have to calculate the end time equal to time dot. What is this time dot time? Time dot time will give the current time of that particular place. So while as soon as the echo becomes 1, we are calculating the time. That time is taken as the end time. Okay. So now we got both when the pulse is sent out, that is the pulse starting time. You can write here one comment here this pulse starting time. Okay, and what is this pulse ending time? This is your pulse ending time. Okay, pulse starting time and ending time both we have calculated here. Okay, next what we have to do? We have to calculate the duration. So duration means what is the time between the both. Duration equal to end time minus start time. End time minus start. Okay. So next, what is the thing that we have to calculate here? Distance. What is the formula for distance here? Distance equal to time. Time is nothing but duration. Okay, duration into what is the speed of the light? What is the speed of the light? Here is that 340 centimeters per second. So we can call it as a 340 100 because I already told you that the distance we are calculating in terms of centimeters. Okay, so in that case, the speed of this uh, thing, whatever we are calculating here, the speed of this particular thing will be calculated as 340 100 centimeters per second. That is the speed of the speed of the sound because we are sending the sound waves. Ultrasonic sensor is sending the sound waves, so we are sending the sound waves here. But what happened here? We have to divide it by 2. Why? Because we are sending the sound pulse towards the object, and again sound pulse is traveling from object to the sensor. This is traveling towards and backwards. So the same length it is traveling 2 times. So it is reaching the object and it is again coming back to the sensor. The pulse is reaching the object and coming back to the sensor. It means 2 times it's traveling. So we want only distance up to object. We need not to calculate the return time. So for that particular purpose, we have to take the distance by 2. And I want to make this round. Okay, so I'm just taking it as a ROUND round of this particular sensor. The value I'm just rounding off. Okay, now I want to print the distance, print distance, and I want to take a gap of, okay, kind of sleep, a gap of 2 seconds. Okay. I think you might have understand over here. I am expecting that you understand. Otherwise, I will just repeat the steps like here. We are just making the sensor to settle over here. We are just making the sensor to settle over here because we are giving some 1 second of gap for the sensor to the settle out, and then we are sending the pulse. We are generating the pulse. So pulse will be generated by these 3 lines. So then we are calculating the starting time of the pulse, and we are calculating the ending time of the pulse, and we are taking the difference over here, and then finally we are calculating the distance of the object. Okay, so this is the things that we are doing here. So now let's try to save this program, and let's connect the sensor over here and execute it so that we will understand that whether it is executing properly or not. So let's execute. So here it is giving the sentence sensor either 194 or 196 centimeters. So means presently my sensor is calculating the floor distance. It is taking the floor like my floor is above 200 meters, almost 2 meters away. So my floor like my ceiling, that's sorry, it's calculating the ceiling distance. So in my room, the ceiling is 194 centimeters or 195 centimeters away. Okay, so now let's put some hand over here. So now it becomes 20 centimeters. Okay, now I'm putting some hand over here. Now the distance is becomes 22 centimeters. Okay, so here I'm moving the hand up and down, say 37, 11, something like that. It is calculating the distance. Okay, now I remove my hand, so it is showing again 194 centimeters. Okay, so this is the way how we can calculate the distance of a particular. So these are the different sensors that I have given how to integrating the different sensors with the Raspberry Pi here. So this is today's session's target. I think we almost achieved the target. And tomorrow, in the next day session, morning, we'll see some theory part like what are the like protocols, like hardware protocols, software protocols, and what are the different sensors available outside, and what are the different hardwares available outside. So we'll see all the information about the deep information about the sensors and hardwares and the protocols. Like and all this information we'll see in the morning. In the tomorrow's afternoon session, we'll have a cloud demo. So we'll select one of the cloud. We have so many clouds available. We'll select one of the cloud from that particular place, and we'll see how to connect to that particular cloud very clearly. Step by step, we'll see same like this. Tomorrow also we'll go step by step in how to connect to a particular cloud. So till now, if you have any doubts, so please, the people who have the Raspberry Pi, so they can please try to practice it. Otherwise, try to get it as soon as if you want to practice the IoT, definitely you should have to have some controller. So without having the more knowledge of these hardwares, so we